This is the 18th season of Bass Talk Live. With your host, Matt Pangrath. BTL is brought to you by Lorraine's, Bass Cat Boats, APCO, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, X-Zone Lures, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, and Pro Guide Batteries.
PTL, coming at you!
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. It is Tuesday, June 7th, and as promised, big show planned for today. It is the Pickwick recap show. Got a lot of good feedback from the Lake Fork recap show, where we had winner Lee Livesey on, and then Polinick, and then Zaldane, and Daryl Gleason, who finished in the same weight, one with the shaky head, one with the glide bait, and then Alex Redwine, who was a rookie, who was like, holy cow, Lake Fork is intimidating. But I got a lot of good feedback that said, hey, I really like that instead of just the single winners interview, so we're going to do kind of the same thing. Here's the deal. Brandon Lester's on a beach. He is booked for next week, next Tuesday, the 14th. Brandon Lester will be on the show for a full hour today. I think we're going to get all these guys. It's kind of been like herding cats this morning. We've got Cody Huff, Justin Atkins, Bill Lowen, and Carl Jocumsen. They kind of finished a myriad around the field. We had Bill Lowen, who's trying to do his thing, adverse conditions, after winning there before. Carl, who finessed his way. Atkins, the hometown favorite, who had to make a comeback, fishing under a lot of pressure. And then Cody Huff, who smoked him. Just not as good as Lester. So that's what's going on. But first, oh my gosh, we're in a double box, and it's Charlie Hartley in a dress shirt. What's up, man?
I'm at the helm of Signcom today, and I know that you heard I won my Wednesday night jackpot tournament, so you had to call and get me on to discuss my latest victory.
Well, absolutely. That is, of course, why we had you on. Tiny Torpedo or Light Texas Rig got the job done. One of the two.
Flipping flooded bushes with a baby brush hog.
Really? I did that on Sunday, Charlie, in a jackpot.
Behind a competitor. It's on a limited horsepower lake. They allow me to trailer and use trolling motor only. And I trailered to a different ramp and was met there by my strongest competitor, who had beat me there by boat because their little limited horsepower boats are over horsepowered. And he got down the lake quicker than I could in my truck to launch. And I almost didn't launch because I was going to have to fish all his used water, and he is a hammer. And I said, suck it up, just fish behind him. And he also runs the tournament, and it was nice when he handed me the first place money, knowing that I
outfished him.
What's that?
You outfished him.
Well, very seldom, but I did the last Wednesday. He usually outfishes me. The kid's a phenom. His name's Eddie Levine. You've probably heard of him. He is on his way to being a professional, if he has anything to say about it.
5 fish or 3 fish?
5 fish limit.
What'd you have?
9 pounds.
Well, that's a burner bag for Ohio, Charlie. You're catching the kickers.
Actually, earlier this year on that same reservoir, we had a big bass weight of 7.76, which is an absolute toad for Central Ohio public reservoir. So I've actually weighed 20-pound bags out of that limited horsepower reservoir. But, 9 or 10 pounds is our normal limit.
I had a very similar conversation to this on Sunday. I fished a jackpot with Robert DeGraffreid. He's one of the best old-school flippers. I'll tell you how old-school he is. He still uses Stren mono, and when they stopped making it, he went and got 20-pound Stren mono for life.
Hard to beat it.
And, we were going down the bank. It's flooded bushes, too, but we were fishing a real community hole area, and there was a boat right in front of us, and Robert's sitting there daubing the bushes, and I started chuckling. And I was like, when you go down a row, especially isolated cover like that, and there's someone right in front of you and you're fishing it, you are basically telling them, I feel like your skill set isn't good enough to catch the fish in here, and I'm totally comfortable fishing behind you, and I'm not giving you any respect for your flipping abilities. in a roundabout way, because sometimes you go in and you see him and you're like, I don't want to fish behind that guy, and you spin around and leave. But I was just laughing that we were going behind, because I do that too. Like, I've got guys that pull in behind me, in the opens, and you're like, boy, this guy doesn't respect me. He thinks I'm leaving fish behind. And then other times they turn around and you're like, I knew they thought I knew how to catch him.
That's funny. I had no choice but to fish behind him. I literally thought about not launching the boat, but I was committed once I'd driven down there. And I literally looked at every bush and said, where would you not flip if you had already flipped this bush? So I went way out of my way to put my bait in places you'd never put it, and was lucky to get most of them out, lost a couple, but it was pretty cool. And it was great to see you at Ross Barnett. What a fun place to fish, and what a nostalgic tournament. I got to see a lot of old friends that I haven't seen in a couple of years. Mr. Rick Clun was there. I got to spend some quality time with him. Dion Hibden and his son have such a history and memory with those. You're talking about old school. You saw me put some old school lures up, and when I went down to grab that box, you asked me to grab that box, I came across my old Bassmaster patches.
Other way. Oh my gosh.
I've got them from all the first tournaments. And here we go.
That is the 1993 Kentucky Bassmaster Invitational out of Gilbertsville. And that's a guy in a tassel jacket with a coonskin cap.
There's the next one of the season.
93 Bugs Island.
Those might be the first ones I fished. I'm not certain, but that might be the first Bassmasters I got invited to. And I got to fish Mega Bucks, which we got really cool patches for. And in tribute to Mr. Ray Scott, there's Mega Bucks Corsicana with Ray Scott himself holding some of my fish.
Oh, that is a cool picture, Charlie.
Super proud of that. I had one of the big bags the first day, and that's the tournament. Mr. Mark Menendez broke the all-time biggest bass record at the time, 13 pounds, 9 ounces, and I was there rooming next to him, got to see that fish. That was the biggest fish I'd ever seen alive at the time. I have some incredible Bassmaster memories. You can't believe the things I've gotten to do and the guys I've gotten to fish with and hang out.
I believe they just did that. Terry Battisti just did something on Bass Fishing Archives about Mark's record catch.
Yep, he's been doing it as long as I have.
So when did you come back from Florida? Obviously, the last time we checked in, you were down at Florida with your lovely wife, enjoying the sunshine and the big bass, and now you're back in Ohio in the real world. Well, no, it's a real world both. I hate when people say that, because you worked your butt off and worked your way up through it to be able to make that your real life during the wintertime. So I hate to, they're both your real lives. This is your I guess like your Superman cape.
Yeah, Superman cape is my bass fishing jersey. This is my normal cape. I came back up after we left, what was it, Cherokee. It was closer to come back after Cherokee, and then we were going on to the James. It made no sense to go back to Florida to the James and then Ross Barnett. I was back down for a week. Unfortunately, my wife's dad passed away, and not to bum everyone out, but I went down for a week to be with her and kept the streak alive every day by catching a fish out of at least our local ponds there in Florida every day, and got to turn the nieces and nephews on to starting their streak down there in Florida also.
What is your streak at now, a streak of catching a fish every day? It's got to be close to 900 some.
It's got to be over 900, Matt, and I need to go back and count the days when it would start. It would have started when I went to Florida around Halloween before Corona. So, you know, October of 2000 maybe. I've caught a fish every single day, whether it be a creek chub, a bluegill, a perch, or a bass. I try to make it a bass most days, and most days it's way more than one. But a lot of days life gets in the way, and I just run to the pond in a downpour with a little niblet on a crappie jig, and the first thing that bites is enough to keep the streak alive and get out of the rain and get back to work. But most days I get a lot more than that.
Next guest, Cody Huff. He was still studying in school. He wasn't even on the Elite Series. Hadn't won all of his tournaments yet, and you started the streak, 900 plus days. All right, you got one more cool thing. Like I said, this show is kind of like herding cats.
Yep. Get them together.
So one more cool thing. I know you've got a bunch there, and I want to bring you back to co-host a show soon, but you had all those lures on, and I was like, dude, I need to get Charlie back on because it had been 3 months. I need to get you on at least for a morning every month.
Sounds good to
BTL
me.
Listeners love you. You always come up with good stories. So one more thing.
Yep.
What do you got?
These are some of my dad's and grandpa's lures, and I actually fished with them years ago. The good old double-jointed river runt. This is like the first. These are the first wake baits. Way before everyone thinks modern baits are so innovative. Here I go again. But these guys were way ahead of their time. A bunch of the old creek chubs we used to troll for hours. My dad almost ruined me on fishing because he was a troller, and to a hyperactive kid, to troll around all day with these behind a rowboat was the most boring thing in the world. But Dad didn't really care if we caught a fish. He was just happy to be away from the office. And some of my first exposures to topwaters, the Bassarino and the Heddon Chugger. Wow. I mean, they haven't changed that much, have they?
No, they're pretty.
And really cool, real quick. My family always trolled these. They were kind of regional, the flatfish. Lure Jensen had a lazy Ike, but flatfish. And look at that cool harness for the 2 front double hooks. I mean, what a great idea on a crankbait.
That's like the scales of justice there. Like they tilt either way, depending on which side.
Last time I was on, I talked about backup crankbaits, and I didn't have my bass magnet box, and I just want to show you a bass magnet because you're young enough. This stuff is foreign to you. This is the Billy Westmoreland bass magnet.
That looks like a precursor to the Rebel Craw, and then also the Live Target.
Yep. This thing caught me so many fish, and still would if I'd throw it. I made my first Ohio State team fishing those. The old Fire Tiger was one of my favorites. It was just one of the most dependable crankbaits. I had more confidence in that bait than hardly anything else. And then, of course, out of the old box, the old Shannon Twin Spin.
Dude, that's some gems. That cool? Those are some gems.
Those
with the
are
buck
bad.
hair on it and the red head.
Now, you get on to those famous bass fishermen, and if you want me to co-host, I'm always available. Everyone loves Bass Talk Live. You've been doing a great job. It was so funny to hear Mark Jeffries critiquing you. I can imagine having your old boss in there saying, why are you letting the bumper music play so long? Why are you doing it this way? Why are you doing it that way? You're doing great. He was laughing, and maybe I need to try retirement. He seemed more mellow and happy than I've ever seen him. He seemed really happy.
He is, and I appreciate that, Charlie. And like I said, I'll call you later in between you doing big sign deals, and we'll get you booked to be a co-host for the day. But I wanted you to jump on to kick things off.
I'm going to kick your butt at Oneida. I already took the lead over you in the points. I was really mad.
I know you slid in and got a check. Last check.
I didn't want to call and rub it in because I know how those checks
I was bitter.
You.
I was so bitter.
I was surprised the last place check was bigger than you'd think because of all those boats.
Well, he still rubbed it in. You just waited a month. See you, Charlie. See ya.
Buddy.
All right, that was Charlie Hartley kicking things off for the morning. And, dude, that guy works hard. Like I said, I didn't want to say, oh, your real life, because it is, because he worked hard to make his real life happen. All right, next, we are going to go to the man. Can you go horizontal with the phone, Cody? We didn't test this stuff beforehand.
Is that wrong way there?
You got to probably unlock it.
Let's see here.
You can unlock the phone and then go horizontal. Cody Huff. There we go. We got it. Another man who was really no surprise in this last tournament that you were at the top of the leaderboard. I mean, this is kind of your wheelhouse deal is Cody Huff, who, dude, you kind of had some big expectations from guys with podcasts like me and shows and the pundits coming into the Bassmaster Elite Series, and it had to feel good when everyone, not a huge, if you look at fantasy fishing, not a huge percentage pick, but a lot of guys in the know were like, man, this is kind of right up Cody Huff's alley.
Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to all year. I've been super excited for it. I mean, especially because I've had kind of a tough year. I've always just been kind of limboing around the check line, right around the cut. It's just been pretty slow, so it felt really good to get out there and get after them a little bit.
Right off the hopper, there's an interesting post in the cameraman that you had Jake, right, for one day, and he said that he thought it was the 30 during a 30-minute span. And dude, he's been in the boat with the guys when it is going down. He said it might have been the most impressive bass catching 30-minute span that he's ever been in the boat for.
Yeah, it was absolutely going down the last 30 minutes of the day on Championship Sunday. I had like 12 pounds whenever I pulled up to that hole in the afternoon, and I pulled up there again, and I threw everything in the boat. Never got a bite, and I could see them down there. I was like, man, they've got to bite something. And I got out a little bitty 3-inch Largo shad on a 1/2-ounce hybrid head, bombed it in there. It hit the bottom. I made like 3 cranks and catch like a 4-pounder. And I was like, holy cow. And like 20 or 30 came up with him. And I was like, that could have been lucky, or that may be the deal, And then it continued every cast until I had to leave. So, I mean, it was incredible. Caught, 20 pounds in a quarter or something in 30 minutes, just catch them every cast on 8-pound tests and a little bitty spray.
Cody, answer me this: when it goes down like that, do you are those fish there and you are igniting the school, or when you're catching them that good, is it a matter of putting your bait in a school that is absolutely going to town on gizzard and threadfins down there, and it is just the perfect storm?
On day 2, I wrecked them in the same place, and I think it was kind of more of they were just going nuts on a big giant school of gizzards. But the last day, there weren't very many bait fish around, but every time the bait would swim by, I would watch this giant school just go nuts on live scope and just start eating the heck out of stuff. But, I mean, as fast as they would come up, they'd go back down. So they'd go back down, and I'd see right where they went. And they were actually set really, really deep. They were sitting at like 25 feet. And I'd just bomb that little swim bait in there and let it hit the bottom. And, I mean, the worst part about it was you couldn't catch them fast enough because you were on light line and a little rod. I mean, like, I thought about putting it on a bigger equipment just so I didn't have to mess with them so long, because it was just – that was the only bad part about it is it was just so fast, but you had to fight them because they were on such light tackle.
Yeah. It seemed like this was a tournament of finesse or power. And I know you spooned a little bit too, but we saw what Zaldane did to finish third. Lester had the spinning rod out for a lot of the tournament, but there was also some fish caught power cranking. Is that just a preference deal, or the fact that it's Pickwick on the ledges and these fish kind of know what's up?
Yeah, I think it's just because they're so smart. I really do. If you're there, right when they kick the turn on, and the school's really fired up, I mean, you can really whack them on all the fun stuff. But you got to there. I caught all 22 pounds all in a big spoon every cast for 30. It's just, I think it's so much timing because they are so smart. If you don't catch them when they're very active, I don't think you're going to catch them doing anything but trying to.
Would you rather catch them on the spoon or on the little 3-inch swim bait? Like, if you had a choice.
Man, I'd rather catch them on the spoon. I love it. I love catching. You got big line, big hooks, and that spoon I was throwing, it's the Dixie Jet. It's got 3 trebles on the back of it, so they can't really get leverage on it. So if you get them hooked on one treble, one of the other ones is going to get in them sometime. And all week throwing that thing, I don't know how many bass I caught on it, but I only lost 1 fish, and it wouldn't have helped anyway.
Your highest Elite Series finish in your young career, and I think it's safe to say it won't be your highest finish in your Elite Series career. I think we all fully expect you to win one of these things pretty soon. But it just seems to me like, yeah, you were 6 pounds back, and Lester wasn't leading after the first day, but it just seemed following this tournament and talking to some of the anglers that, like, he had it dialed in, and a lot of you guys knew that he had it dialed in too. Did you ever have a feeling like you you could catch Lester going into the last couple of days, or did you think something really special would have to happen in order to be able to catch him?
I knew the quality of fish that I was on after day 2, catching a big bag. And, day 3, I caught a really big one. I really thought that it was possible to have a special day and kind of make that comeback. But I knew that for me to do that, I was going to have a special day, because the odds of him slipping were very, very slim. Because I'm pretty sure he caught them really fast every morning, and then just upgraded a few times throughout the day every day. So he had them so dialed. He was definitely going to be a hard one to catch. It wasn't out of the possibilities, but I knew I had my work cut out for him.
And then, did you room with Fouts with Jacob?
Yeah.
Is that one of those deals where, I mean, we've all had it, like whether you're in a club tournament or a BFL or something, you're splitting a room, and sometimes it's awkward when like one guy's not catching them and you are, and sometimes you come back and you like look at each other and you're both like, oh yeah, it's going down. Was that a case where you guys both, I mean, you're what, young, in your 20s, fishing for 100K, were you guys like, man, this is our wheelhouse and we're going to be there at the end?
We both knew what we wanted to do. We both loved the ledge fish, and we knew that's what we were going to do the entire time. We didn't devote time to anything else in practice. And the first day we both went out and found quite a few schools, and we're kind of like, yeah, I mean, they're out there to do it. If we can just find a couple each day, we'll be in good shape. And it did get tough. There were not a lot of fish out there that weren't on just straight up community stuff. So you really had to work hard to find stuff that wasn't just, on the main drag community stuff. We were I know we were both griping about not finding a lot of schools, but I know for a fact both of us were not looking in the same places, in the right places to find those, normal big Tennessee River schools. But I'm not really a community hole guy if I can keep coming. So I never scanned a main creek ditch the whole week I was there.
Awesome. Well, Cody, I greatly appreciate you jumping on. I know it's kind of a weird time. A lot of guys are on vacation. This is a lot of kind of downtime before the northern swing heading up to it. But looking at the events coming up and kind of what your specialty is and what you like to do, you have to be excited to come off of Pickwick, where you're expected to do well, and then head up north where your skill set will most likely excel.
Well, I hope that's the case, man. I'm excited to get it going. We'll see what happens.
All right, thanks for jumping on BTL this morning. I like that background too. That's like rustic farmhouse. I think you got some feed bags back there, the barn door on the wall. Is that all you?
No, that's the wife. I'm just kicked back in the house.
Okay, I was going to say, I didn't know. Maybe we had a little secret interior decorator. I'm currently going through that with my house now, and everything I put in there, the girlfriend comes over and is like, dude, what the heck were you thinking buying that?
He gets her wall, and then I get my wall.
Okay, Cody is now Cody is now walking over to his wall. The rustic farmhouse has been just replaced with giant bucks.
Yes, that's what we're looking for.
Very nice. Well, at least she lets you keep the deer in the house.
Yes, that's all that matters. All right.
All right.
Thanks for having me, man.
Thanks, Cody. Have a good one. All right, that was Cody Huff, 80 pounds, 5 ounces, $35,000 for his efforts. And I think we're going to jump right into the next guest before we get to our first break. So far, so smooth. Appreciate Cody. Sorry, a little bit of audio glitches there, but I think we got 95% of it done. And now we'll go to our next guest, Justin Atkins, who I will also request go. Can you go horizontal with your phone? There you go. Typically we have these done, but when you do the 5 or 6 guests and there's like nasty storms and some issues this morning, but we're good. But hey, have you been on BTL before, Justin?
I have not. I'm a first timer.
How the heck is this the first time? You have like $1 million in earnings. You've won a Forest Wood Cup. I actually fished with your traveling partner in the Costa Championship in 2019.
Yep.
He spoke very highly of you.
Well, I appreciate that.
And you've never been on the show.
No, I don't think I have. I was thinking about that just a few minutes ago as I was watching Cody talk. I was like, I've never got to do this one, so I feel honored.
Yeah, well, this is BTL, Bass Talk Live. Mark Jeffries did it for 15, 16 years, and then I took over this year. So I know you're just on for like a little segment now, but I need to get you back on for like a full show.
Yeah, no, we can do it.
because I want to talk to you about that deal that you did with Lucas a couple years ago at that crazy pond. I think he reposted a clip a couple weeks ago, but I remember when that went down. That one, remember where you like get there and you're like, hey, I've got a bite. Should I set the hook? And it was like an 8, and then it just went chaos after that.
Yeah, the very first bite was like I don't remember. It was like a 998 or something on a set of Rapala scales. So we started the day with an almost 10, and then caught another 10 off the bed, and I don't know how many 4 and 5 pounders. It was a really good fishing hole. There's no doubt.
It was crazy. So this is the Pickwick recap show. Like I said, we just had Cody Huff on, who, heck, you're like a whole like generation above Cody Huff too. Like it's hard to believe there's like a whole nother, you know what I mean? Like you were part of the class coming up where it was like, oh, you know, the Justin Atkins and all you guys. And then they're like, Cody was like a whole nother class series behind you, right?
That's right. It was me and Jordan Lee and Matt Lee and, yeah, I'm having a fuzz right now, but I mean, there was like, you're right. I mean, it was like one group, and then as we kind of phased out, like next thing you know, there's Cody Huff catching them at Toledo Bend on live scope.
Fouts and Garrett and all these guys that are coming up.
Right. That's right. So it's pretty cool to see those waves like that.
Because how old are you now?
32.
So you won the cup when you were what, 29, 28? 27.
Mm-hmm.
That had to be crazy being like in your mid-20s and winning the cup and that, like, I mean.
I fished the All-American and finished 3rd that year and won the cup. And I can't remember. I think I got a check in 5 out of 7 tour events. And then something else. I don't remember. It amassed to I won like almost $500,000 in 1 year.
What is your confidence like when you've got the trophy and the confetti and you're in your 20s and everyone's saying how good you are and how this is, you know, the second, like, what is your confidence like when you launch that boat after a series of events like that?
It's completely different. Like I was in a different mindset then than I am now, which is, you know, I mean, it's no secret. I've been struggling, you know, here lately. And, it's just really cool to see kind of how that all worked out, and like it just built off of every decision got better and better and better. And the kind of the backstory on that is I finished 3rd in the All-American at Pickwick, and I really wanted to win that one, obviously. Being on my home lake, it was a tournament I wanted to qualify for my whole life. I didn't know how many of them I'd get to fish, and finished 3rd in that, and I was just ill. I mean, dude, I was ill about that one for real. And so I just left the next week and went to Murray and started pre-practicing. And I scanned around and figured out the whole cane pile deal, and just really spent a lot of time dialing that in. So one thing worked out to lead to something better, you know, and I feel like things always work out for a reason. But had I won the All-American, I'd have been lackadaisical about it. I wouldn't have went to Murray. You know, I'd have been like super satisfied with winning $100,000 in the All-American, and life would have been good. And little did I know, like it really worked out good, because by me going out there and spending that time, I really dialed the lake in before real practice ever even started for the cup. And so I don't know, it's pretty cool to see how that works. But yeah, as far as the confidence deal, like that's a high, you know, that you can ride for a while, and it really changed my life for sure.
I've heard guys talk about what's crazy, you know, guys who have been at that level, and then what they talk about, it's crazy how long Kevin stayed at that level, fishing less and less with more and more obligations and more sponsor stuff, and then coming back and stay. Like the guys who have been at that level said the hardest thing to do is to stay at that level as their life changes based on the success that they've had. Is that, I mean, is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah. You know, Kevin did an awesome job at that. I mean, because it was
it's like,
I mean,
12
he like went
years.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, he went for like a 5 to 10 year span somewhere in there where he just always called him. And you know, I feel like being at different stages of your life, when that high happens, will dictate how long you truly can ride it. You know, like mine, I rode it into the next year. I finished 3rd in the cup the next year. I won a Bassmaster Open. I won a BFL Super Tournament. Like, it was really good there for a while, and I felt like every decision I made was the right one, and it was a good one. And by all means, like, I don't regret a single decision I've ever made in my career. Like, everything I've got to do has been awesome. I've got to fish all 3 tours. I have fished with the best in the world. I have fished with the upcoming best in the world. Like, I've had a really freaking cool career for the last 6 years.
Yeah.
Where I've kind of got in a funk was going. I fished FLW for 2 years. And I was really riding that high, and then I go to the Bass Pro Tour. I was one of the only guys that had never fished that format. A lot of those guys had fished major league events in amongst, fishing at Bass or fishing at FLW, and I never had. So my first experience with it was the first day they dropped me in the water. And that was really kind of a major learning curve, because not only am I now fishing against Kevin Van Dam today, I also have to catch more bass than Kevin Van Dam, and I have to learn the strategy to that. So it was really kind of a deal of that first year was a huge learning curve. And by the end of the year, my finishes got better, and you could see that I was kind of getting used to it. And then the next year, I had a good year, and I finished high enough. I made the Red Crest. I made their heavy hitters. I did all that. But the whole time, all I ever want to do, man, is I want to fish a classic. That's all I want to do since I was a kid. And that's not going away. And that's all I could think about the whole time I was there. And I was like, all right, I've got to do this, at least one time in my life. So I'd signed up for all the opens, and I managed to qualify for the elites. And so I swapped back. And as weird as that sounds, because I caught them in the opens so good, it's been an adjustment relearning how to practice for a 5-fish event. So I don't know. The opens, you could get some more time. I could spend 4, 5, 6 days out there practicing and all that, and you could fix that curve. But going back to a 3-day practice and having to learn it, I've struggled with that again, trying to figure out the difference in wanting to fish a tournament where I need to just get bites, and a tournament that I'd better be catching big ones. And so anyways, I just said all that to talk about kind of how that high can swing.
Yeah.
And so right in the middle of all the career changing, I have a kid. My whole life just really evolved fast. And here lately, I felt like it's been getting better. I caught them down at Barnett. I made some good decisions down there. And that's not a lake that I'm unfamiliar with. That BFL Super Tournament I won was on Barnett. I like it. It's a good lake. I've spent some time down there, but I just felt like I made good decisions there. I felt like I made good decisions at Pickwick. When Fork was all said and done, my gut told me to do exactly what they called them, and I just fought it the whole time. And so it's always it's an evolving learning lesson. And I think when I first started, all I knew was to trust my gut because I hadn't done it very long, and it always worked out. And now I have all these preconceived notions because I think I know a lot and I don't know anything. And I just got to get back to fishing on my gut for sure.
It's crazy. You see a bunch of guys go, I think Jake Whitaker is going through that right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of guys that have all the talent in the world, and they come. We used to talk about the third year was the year that you really saw, but I mean, it's kind of like that middle, where either it works out or you figure your way through that weird 3, 4, 5 where now you realize what you don't know and you have to figure out who you are and how you're going to go about it. And then you come out the other side and boom, you're good to go. But it's kind of that middle. So I didn't realize you hadn't fished a classic. So when you won in 2018, that wasn't the win. Was that the year before they went back to the win, or what was
Yeah. They had done winning your end for 10 years.
Yeah.
And in that one year, they didn't do it. They decided to do it where you had to win this championship tournament on Table Rock.
Oh, that was the year they did the Open Champion. That was when Carl was throwing the glide and lost him on all that. And did Littner win it, or who?
Littner won it. He was one of the first ones out of the
that.
Classic in the elites that year, and so he actually still got to go to the Classic by winning.
Oh, that sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've literally fished everything. Okay, so you've fished All-American. Like I said, All-American, Cup, BPT, Pro Circuit, Toyotas, Opens.
Done it. Been there and done it.
Have you done any of the Federation stuff, the Bass Nation or the TBF stuff? Mm-hmm. You did all that stuff?
When I was in high school, I fished all that stuff. I didn't go real far in it, but I fished all the state stuff.
Okay. Collegiate. You fished collegiately.
Collegiate.
So you've fished in everything you can except the Bassmaster Classic.
Mm-hmm. It's a real thorn in my side right now, which contributes to also maybe some poor performance because I'm trying so hard. I try harder now than I ever have in my life. I get up earlier, rig more rods. Like it's I want to fish one really bad. I mean, I signed up for all the opens just for the chance to maybe win one and make it this year.
You could care less about a check. You're all about the dub.
I want to fish a classic, like, period.
Yeah. So you're in a pickle though, with like points wise.
No. I need 3 more top 10s to make it. Yeah. I've done that math every which way you can, and I got to finish 3 more top 10s.
Okay, so you can do that. So this is one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, though, and we didn't even get there. We kind of went down. I need to have you on for a full episode.
Yeah.
But here's the hardest thing to do, in my opinion. Have your back up against the wall on your home fishery that's fishing a little bit odd with everyone expecting you to catch them, and then have a slow start on day 1 and be able to bounce back with the top 10 with all your friends, family, on the water watching you, Bassmaster, the whole 9 yards, while you're not fishing incredibly well. And to go ahead and pull a top 10 out here was super impressive watching you navigate your way through this event. Because on Bass Track, I mean, it wasn't like a Lester deal where you just rolled out and were like, this is my home pond. And then did you guys take out of the dam down there?
Out of Tennessee.
Okay. So then you also had like other decisions to make too.
Well, yeah, because that's the biggest problem. When we go out of McFarland, if you want to run to the lower end and fish the community schools, I kind of laughed at Cody, and I'm going to pick on him a little bit. He said, I'm not one to fish community schools. They all community schools, buddy, on Saturday. When you fish a team tournament on Pickwick, everybody knows all of them. It's crazy. I used to get so excited I'd find something like, oh, I'm starting here on Saturday. Now I'm like, I ain't running by a single place I've ever seen one. But against our guys, there was some places that I was really surprised other people didn't find. But that's the thing about going out of Tennessee is what I was going to say is when you go out of McFarland, you can run to that lower end. There's a lot of places to get gas. And so you can go down there and spend your time riding and looking, seeing what hole you can get on, fishing this one. And then 30 minutes later, you start your ride again. And you can burn a lot of gas up. It's not a big deal. You run over Yellow Creek, get some fuel, and head home. But going out of Tennessee, fishing on the upper end of the lake, there's nowhere to get gas. And so I had to be real strategic and pay attention to when the water was going to be on and plan where I wanted to be when, so that I didn't have to worry about a fuel issue, because by the time I get back to where fuel is, I'm back at where we're taking off from, so without running 15 more miles on up to McFarland. So it was a little bit strategic. I really had to pay attention to what I was going to do and not get in a hurry, that's really where I messed up last year. I was in too big of a hurry to get to that next place I wanted to try, because essentially our practice was null and void. The water was 10 foot higher in the tournament than it was in practice. And so I was having to run places that I had caught them with it flooded before. Well, there's 1,000 places I caught them, and I had time to fish 50 in a day if I hurried. So I didn't want to get sucked into that trap again this year. I wanted to just have confidence in my next decision, and I wanted to fish it out. And it really worked out pretty good. I would get just enough bites to keep me engaged in what I had going on. I wanted to stay away from that large school fishing. I've done it too much out here. It's
almost like Florida, isn't it?
Yeah, Cody and Fouts did it as good as anybody's ever done it. To go to those large schools, that school out there at the mouth of Bear Creek where Fouts is fishing, they get fished every day. And for him to catch them cranking, spooning the whole 9 yards, like he did a good job. I don't know if it's how far he stayed off of them. I don't know. He did a good job. And then Cody ran a lot of places. Where Lester caught him at was 200 yards from where Greg Hackney won at in 14. And
when he was on that super shallow bar in the FLW event where he absolutely blistered. Didn't he have like 27 or 29 or something, and it was only like 5 or 7 foot deep?
Mm-hmm.
I remember that tournament.
It's the same group of fish. Not like obviously not the same.
Yeah,
But the same school that
Setup.
wants to get out in that area. It was the same fish. They had just moved about 200 yards, and I just missed them. And
how close were you to it? Like where you would have seen them in prep?
100
How
yards.
how far? And where'd you miss it? Like outside or inside, or like how did you miss it?
So the fish normally get on this one bar that runs parallel to the river, and they get out off the end of it. And I just scanned out off the end of it and then got up and went on down the river. And Lester told me he did the same thing, that he fell off the end of it and then turned and was going to go straight out to the river. And when he turned and started going out to the river, he saw them on side scan. And they were out there on a bare hard spot. And that's just the way it works. When it's your time, like you can't mess with that. And had he decided to go on up the river, he'd have missed him too. But instead, he turned and went out. And it just made like a little swag right there. And their shell had washed in there or something in a flood, and they were set up on it. And he found them. But yeah, when I passed Lester that first day, and he caught them, he had the really good bag, and I thought, dang, I wonder if that's where he caught them at. Well, the next morning, I started up above him. So I run right by him after blast off. And when I passed him, I was like, oh, crap, I screwed that up. And I called Hackney that night, and I said, when this is over and you find out where he's catching them, you're going to throw up. I'm just letting you know. And he called me after day 3. He said, oh, I saw him this morning, dude. He said,
oh, so yeah, Hackney missed him too because he was fishing it. You'd have thought he'd have checked that.
Oh, he did. He just missed him too.
I see Bill Lowen in the queue. We're going to have him on here in a few minutes, but he's going to have to bear with us for a little bit more ledge fishing talk before we talk about stuff up by the bank. He's had his day in the sun on Pickwick in the past too. But so you feel, I know what those schools are set up with. So if you take a turn instead of getting on pad, it's like stop sign, flashing lights, neon lights. It's not like you would have gone over and missed them. Like they were dunk. They were set up.
Obviously, he had a zillion of them out there for them to be getting there every single morning and him catch them as quick as he did. There was obviously 1,000 of them out there. And like I said, like by all means, dude, he killed it. Like he had an awesome tournament. He deserved everything he got this week. That was really freaking cool to watch him do that. I just stayed away from that. Yeah, let me back up. Had I found the first day I caught them off 2 shallow places. They were shallow schools. There was a ton of fish in them. The water was running right, and it just got them set up. And that's what was really cool to see about Lester's spot, and why I say there had to be so many out there. Was even without the water running, he still killed them. They still set up for him. Like it was a place they were really trying to get on. I ran a lot of current-driven deals the first day that were causing the fish to get set up. That played out really good. But day 2 and day 3, we just didn't have very much water to start, and I really had to transition into more target fishing for single fish that were set up on wood, hard spots, rock.
Were you seeing them? Were you casting to them?
Yeah, I would see some of them. You'd see them set up high around the target. And like I said, some of it was stump, some of it was rock, some of it was wood. I was just looking for anything in that 8 to 15 foot range. And I could see them on my active target sometimes, and I would throw my worm out there. And if I didn't see my worm falling right to that spot, I would reel it in and throw it back out there until I got it right where I wanted. Because I felt like the worm would go by the fish and you'd see them go down, and I would fish it over the object. But when it fell that second time real fast, when I picked back up, if he was going to get it, he'd be on it. It was almost like the fish would track it a little bit, but when it fell off the object, I don't know if they thought it was getting away from them or what, but that's when they would, run in there and pick it up. And that was it's just a deal I've just caught some good ones doing. And I felt like I would have a lot of it to myself. And I felt like to win, I could spend more time fishing doing that and less time running around. And I had potential to catch big ones. And I had potential to fish by myself the whole time. And that was the recipe I picked to try to win this event.
Yeah, almost worked. Top 10, $17,000 check.
Yeah, no, it was good. Literally, I had 2 boo-boos in the whole tournament. The first day, I lost about a 6-pounder. I don't know how. The fish got it, slacked my line, reel down, set the hook. I might have got a little cocky because it was coming up to jump, and I just kept digging on it because I wanted it to jump right there for Bass Live, and it did. It just come off when it jumped, but whatever. The other mess up was the last day I had 2 fish get the bait on the other side of the stump and the lay down. One was in a brush pile, one was on the other side of a stump. And I couldn't get them out. I couldn't get them fought through. And one of them I felt like was a big smallmouth. The smallmouth will bounce your line and just instantly start taking slack out. Or a largemouth will get it and he don't hardly move. Like you just pick up and it's mushy. But it's every smallmouth I caught would just bounce the line and your line would just leave. And that's what it did. I couldn't get the fish back through the brush pile, and we sawed and sawed and sawed, and it finally just broke me off. But I was fortunate to have those things happen on Sunday, not on Thursday or Friday. You know what I mean? Like, so no complaints here. But like you said, it almost worked. It really, like, minus a couple fish losses, it really could have been even that much better. I couldn't have run Lester down, but I could have, given Fouts and Huff, a little bit of grief for sure had I caught a few more of them. So, anyways, it was a great tournament. I said before I started, if I could just, the first goal was to get 10 grand. The second goal was to make a top 10. So we got 2 of the 3 goals checked off. So I can't complain about that.
Yeah. It was interesting you say this. I remember I was shooting photos of Clark Ream on Kentucky Lake right past the bridge up there, and they took out they didn't take out a Paris. They didn't take out a dam. We put it in Paris, and Clark was on one of those schools with a big 12-inch worm, and he's standing on his front deck, and he turns to me and he goes, "You want to see a 5-pounder?" And one had just picked his worm up. And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Get your camera ready. It's on." And he reels down and cracks it, and he looks at me. He's like, "Told you." And he's fighting this thing. I've got this photo blown up on my wall because it was one of the coolest photos at all times. And he goes to the back deck, and this thing jumps, and he's like, "Told you it was a 5-pounder." And right then it jumps, and it throws that dang worm. And there's a picture on the back deck of that 5-pounder, like it looks like the BASS logo, and the worm's about 5 foot out of a fish's mouth that he had just thrown. I was like, I felt bad. I was like, I hope he was doing the same thing. He was getting a little cocky with it because it was every cast. He knew it was a good one. He was letting it get down there and whack it. But I still have that one on my wall. But then I was young then, right? Like I was really young. So then I blew the photo up and I took it to him and I was like, "Look at this awesome photo. Will you sign it?" Which is kind of like, let me just sign this photo of this friggin' giant that I lost. I probably wouldn't do that now.
If it would have been with me, you can bring me that. I'll sign it anytime. That'd be pretty cool. I would think.
That's like I have him, and I have an autograph. I have an autograph of Clark Ream, and you'll never guess it. I have an autograph of Rick Ash out of Buffalo, who caught a 5-pound smallmouth in the air like a football, like that, and it's like this 5-pounder like that. Those are the only 2 autographs I've got.
That's pretty sweet.
Rick Ash and Clark Ream.
A little funny backstory before we have to go about the got a little too cocky on that. So me and Jordan Lee were fishing a team tournament on Wheeler 10, 12, 15 years ago. I don't remember, a long time ago. And we were catching them on frog around the bushes. And there was one willow tree that was laying over. And I saw one swirl up there. They were spawning, obviously. And I saw one turn. And I was like, I got that one. And, dude, I skipped my frog, and, I mean, it just slid up there like as good as I could have ever thrown it. Twitched it twice, and the fish just flushes it. It's like a 6-pounder. I set the hook. I get him fought up, and he's on top, and I'm just skiing him to the boat, and I'm giggling and laughing because we're having a freaking blast, and obviously I've called my shot. There's just one log laying between me and the fish is just mouth pinned open, just coming to us. Well, it gets to that log, and it just hangs. Well, like an idiot, I just pulled on it real hard. Of course, it comes off. I just pull the hooks out. And I was like, oh, my gosh, I can't believe I did that. And Jordan just goes, got a little too cocky on that one. And so ever since then, anytime me or him do something stupid, we'll text each other or whatever. Just be like, got a little cocky, didn't you? So
that's cool to just see. There's that whole group of guys, that whole Bama group of guys that you guys just terrorized all the guys for a number of years there. Now you're all at the top level.
Yeah, for sure. It's been a fun ride.
Well, dude, I greatly appreciate you coming on BTL. I learned a lot, about ledge fishing. It's kind of hard to do these shows because there's so much information out there. Everyone knows who did it live. You got the other podcasts that are going through it. You have the website and stuff. So what I try to do on these is get a number of guys on who fish to get a better understanding. And dude, after watching that live coverage, I got a better understanding of just how close you can be to the glory, or how you can maximize areas, or how you're like, well, why isn't everyone? I mean, it's just it's more than just pull up in a group of boats and chunk a heavy piece of metal or a swim bait out there. Yeah, there's a lot to it.
That's right. It's all about making good decisions, knowing what the lake has to offer, or picking you one area and learning everything about it. And there's a lot to it. Ledge fishing is a game of strategy. The catching the fish is normally the easiest part of the whole deal, honestly. It's the finding and the getting on the right ones is the hard part.
All right. You're the man, Justin. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
All right. See you. That was Justin Atkins, fresh off an 8th place finish. Hey, we have to take a break when we come back. Waiting very patiently, like I said, listening about ledge fishing is probably foreign to him. He's probably ledge? What's a ledge? Is the man Bill Lowen, who won this event last year in dramatic fashion. But we're going to take a quick break, come back with Bill Lowen, and talk about how he attacked a very different Pickwick than when they fished there last year. It is BTL, the Pickwick recap on Tuesday, June 7th, and we'll be back after these messages.
Your key to better fishing this season is Elite FS, now available at a new lower price. Get Elite FS9 today for $9.99, and we'll throw in a CMAP reveal chart, our premium mapping solution, for free. Elite FS works with all state-of-the-art Lowrance sonar, from chirp, side scan, and down scan imaging with fish reveal to high-resolution active target live sonar. Elite FS9 and CMAP reveal. Offer ends August 31st.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
We're just about ready to go, ladies and gentlemen. Get in order.
Once again, Drew Cook is in the driver's seat.
When you're catching fish for a living, you can't let a little cold, rain, heat, humidity, or anything else get in the way of a payday. I wear APCO. Any fish, any water.
The KVD 100 jerkbait. 15 different colors. A perfect combination of roll, wiggle, and flash. Increased castability. 3D eyes. Premium black nickel hooks. KVD. Tie one on. Striking lures.
Are you looking to install your own fishing electronics? Well, the Bass Tank is here to help you. The solution is the Bass Tank Power Harness. It takes the guesswork out of installation. No more voltage issues or interference. Designed by an engineer so that you can get professional results right there in your own garage. Installation done right with the help of the Bass Tank Power Harness. You can feel confident knowing that your installation was done right. The Bass Tank Power Harness. Give us a call or order yours today at thebasstank.com.
Welcome back, BTL, on a Tuesday. We'll introduce him as the 2021 Pickwick Elite Series champion. That would be Bill Lowen. What's up, Bill?
Morning, buddy. How are you?
We're good. I got to make sure we test all this stuff. Your audio sounds good. I think we're good to go. What do you think about... I'm pretending like you didn't know what the heck you're doing out there. You obviously know how to do everything. It's just not your preference to be out there. dragging offshore, but you got a chance to listen to a little bit of what Atkins said. Like, what's it like going into a tournament where primarily it's probably going to be a lot of top tens doing something that's not your cup of tea?
I'll be honest with you. You guys made me sit there and listen to that, and trying to keep from falling asleep. But it's one of them deals where, you need to be out there. And look, I tried that in practice, and I actually started out offshore on the first morning, and the boat started getting around me and crowding, and I don't care for that. I hate to fish like that, but there comes a time in an event where you got to put yourself in survival mode. And I know a lot of guys think you're crazy when you say that, but look, obviously we want to win every event that we fish. But is that realistic all the time? Absolutely not. And these last two events for me, Lake Fork and Pickwick, were going to be, I knew going there that there were going to be events for me to survive in. I was down in the points and was fortunate to get back up at Pickwick and fishing my style. And, I was going to do the exact same thing here at Pickwick. And, Pickwick for me became an event where I knew I was going to have to survive. And before the event started, I thought I could catch 15 pounds a day, and it just didn't work out that way.
I had Daryl Gleason on after Lake Fork, and he talked about how he caught him on a shaky head there on a bridge piling. And he said something that I really liked. He said, I made a business decision on day 2. He'd had a sucky year. He wanted a $10,000 check. He knew he wasn't going to beat Lee Livesey with a shaky head on a bridge piling, but he said, I made a business decision to get the $10,000. And it sounds like, these last 2 events, I loved the way he put that. I hadn't heard that before. And I thought a lot, like, you make a lot of business decisions out there. You don't hit the $1 million mark and be as consistent as you have and make as many classics without knowing when it's time to make a business decision and salvage the points that you can.
You're absolutely right on that. Sometimes it's about getting a check and keeping them points up. And that was my mindset going into Pickwick. And like I said, I thought I could catch 15 pounds a day, grub in the bank. And I had some unfortunate things happen that we can talk about, and just didn't work out.
The unfortunate things I'm assuming you want to talk about is the lack of current setting up on the shallow fish, right?
Well, obviously I spent 3 days of practice up there shallow fishing around, and I didn't get a ton of bites during practice. And look, Pickwick's giant. There's a lot of backwaters. There's a lot of shoreline. The last day of practice, I got on a little deal, flipping trees on the main river, which I'd already had some bites like that, but I hadn't committed to it fully. And the last day of practice, around 1:00, the water was running pretty good. And in about an hour, I had about 25 bites. And the ones I set the hook on were, those 3, 3.25, 3.5 pound fish that, you're not going to win the event. You're going to get paid. You're going to have a good finish. You're going to get out of here in one piece. And all the stars lined up for that. It wasn't really lack of current that killed me. I just feel like I had some bad luck, and on the second day, maybe made a decision that I should have did something else. But, on the water, it's all about decisions. And some days they're good and some days they're bad.
You want to leave it at that, or you want to dive into it? Because that's kind of vague, Bill. But I want to go into it. So, like, what was the thought process? What was the decision that was a bad decision in hindsight?
Well, it's you always say it's a bad decision when it doesn't work out,
right?
And then you think you're a hero when it does work out. So the first day of the event, I was starting up in the back of Bear Creek. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Bear Creek's one of the biggest, what I'm going to call river creeks on the lake. It has 2 rivers feeding into the back of it.
It's massive.
This time of the year, those are the kind of areas that I like to look for. There may be a little bit of current left. Those fish that are up there typically live shallow all year long. They live up there. They don't swim out there to the main river and get on a ledge. And I look for isolated wood and little channel swings and things like that. So the first morning I started up there because I thought I, could get a better than average bite up there, and was fortunate. I caught my biggest fish of the day up there. I don't know if you watched, but I caught him off of an old cypress tree laying out on a flat. Looked like a guy built an old duck blind around it.
It's a Bill Lowen spot.
Yes, absolutely. I caught my best fish there. I caught like 5 fish off that piece of cover. But long story short, I caught 2 good ones up there and said, hey, it's time to run out to the river stuff and fish the laydowns and things like that I'd been fishing out there. And I think I ended up catching, I don't know, close to 25 or 30 keepers that day, and probably caught 50 fish total, with short fish included. And I fished extremely clean and lost 1 fish. One key fish, one in that 4-pound class that would have made the difference between 13 pounds and 15 pounds. So here I would have been right at that number that I wanted, that 15-pound number. So the second day I'm thinking, as you're leaving, let's go run your game plan. Let's go do what we do. And I mean, law of averages, you've had so many bites yesterday, you're going to get the bites today. It's just, are they going to be big enough? So I run up to the top of Bear Creek again to start. And, we had a storm go through that afternoon or that night. But man, I didn't realize that we had that big of a storm. But when I get up there, the main creek that I was fishing in was blowed out. There was debris in the water. And I was like, this is unbelievable. So around up there and try to find a little clean pocket or something. And I was fortunate enough to catch 1 keeper, and guys are always say, well, Bill, I mean, you fish in the mud all the time. What's the big deal with it blowing out? And I always tell them, I don't like fresh mud. I don't like mud that has just currently happened. Had it been 2 days or 3 days later, I wouldn't have had an issue with it. So I bail out on that and I run to my river stuff out there. And I know that they're not going to run any current till later on in the afternoon, that 1 or 2 o'clock time frame. So it always seems like on the Tennessee River, it's always a timing thing. Even if you're out shallow or if you're up shallow or out deep on the ledges, it's definitely a timing thing. So, I go out there and I start fishing trees, and you got that feeling in your gut, you're not doing the right thing until 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I had a few big bites up in Coffee Slough, which is another 10 miles up the river from where I'm at.
Famous slough.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And they live in there. So I run up there and I'm thinking, if I can just run in here and get me a couple good bites, I can bounce back out on the river. And when they start biting, we'll be good. So I pack her up and I head to Coffee Slough and I run that express all the way back as far as you could go, which you probably shouldn't. I would not recommend doing that.
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't that kind of a sketchy slough? Once you get in, there's a lot of obstructions.
There's we'll just call them bombs. There's bombs everywhere. There's just waiting to go off. But anyway, I get in there and I'm all the way in the back, and I've been catching them flipping around some of the cypress, which is no big secret. And I can't get a bite. I think it's about 11 o'clock at that time, and I can't get a bite, and I pick up a square bill and I bounce it off a cypress, and a big one eats it, and like a 4-pound fish, and she just comes off. I was like, oh my goodness, I need that bite so bad right now. So I pick up my flipping rod and I go back to flipping, and I can't get a bite, and I pick my square bill back up and throw it between 2 cypress trees, and I catch a short fish. And I'm like, these fish are eating a square bill. They're up shallow. I mean, they were like in a foot of water. And so I'm like, look, I'm just going to go cranking for another hour and see what happens. So I take off cranking in there, and the trolling motor's churning up mud, and I get another one of them big bites, and it comes off. And so now I've lost 2 fish, 2 4-pound class fish, and I got a 15.25-inch squeaker in the box. And now it's like 1 o'clock. So I'm like, look, the water's getting ready to turn on. Let's get the heck out of here. Let's go back out to the river. So I go out to the river, and I pull up to my first tree, and I catch fish number 2, keeper. Pull up to the next tree, catch fish number 3, is a keeper. I catch a couple short ones, and then I can't get a bite. And I'm just watching the clock, click, 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 click. I catch a couple more short ones. And these fish were set up on big lay-down trees out on the main river. Did I lose you?
No, I got you.
Oh, okay.
You just freeze occasionally, but your audio is golden. So,
Awesome.
We're good to go for the podcast. It's just they get to see your face freeze every couple seconds.
I got you. Sweet. So these fish, there's hundreds of big laydown trees on Lake Pickwick.
Yep.
And these fish were set up in the ones that I'm going to call them crappie trees. And when I say crappie trees, they're the ones that have all the branches and all the little tiny, I'm going to call them fingers. You know what I mean? Just when you pitch your bait in there, it's either you're going to get a bite or you're going to get hung up.
Yep.
And them are the ones they were set up in. They had piles of shad in them. There was a mayfly hatch going on. There was
circle of life going on right there.
Bluegills up there. And I think that's a lot of things that guys forget about this time of the year. Obviously, the winning fish are out in the middle of the lake, but everybody wants to be out there. But they forget about that shad spawn and that brim spawn and things like that, and the mayfly hatch that keeps them fish up there shallow for a number of couple weeks. And you've heard me say this a million times. I believe there's fish that live shallow their whole life that never swim out there and get deep. But anyway, back to those trees. I pull up to what I'm going to call a crappie tree, and I went old school on this one. I was pitching a 4-inch tube around, just typical Bill Lowen stuff. And I pitch at the end of that tree, and it gets heavy, and I set the hook, and I got a good one. I mean, one of them ones you need, another big fish. And she gets me wrapped up in the end of the tree, and she just comes off. I'm like, man, I cannot believe this has happened. I've had 3 big bites. I've lost all 3 of them. I got 3 little swimmers in the box right now. So it's like, I don't know. It's 2:30. It's getting close to 3. I got to be back in at 3:30, and I'm 30 miles up the river. So I threw a waypoint on a tree that morning when I was running down the lake that looked right. It just had the right characteristics to it. And I just threw a waypoint down on it. I said, I'll hit this on the way back. So now I'm scrambling. I don't have no fish in the box. Let's make this 20-mile run or 10-mile run back down to that tree. So I pack everything up and I run all the way down there, and I pull up to the tree and I look at my GPS, and it's like 3:05, 3:08, something like that. And I know that I got to be running at 3:10 for this 20-mile run, or I'm not going to make it. I don't know how rough it's going to be from boat traffic. And I pull up to the tree. I pick my rod up. I pitch my tube in there. I go to hop it, and it's like somebody cut the line. I set the hook, and it's a legit 4-pound smallmouth. And she kind of comes up out of that crappie tree and does one of them little half head shake walks, and she gets wrapped around a limb, and she's hanging there, and she just comes off. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is
holy cow, that's like an 18 to 20 pound bag.
Yeah, so this is not happening. So I fix my tube and I pitch it back in the tree, and it goes down, and I feel thunk, and I set the hook, and I get that. This is a 3-pound, 3-pound class smallmouth. I get her up out of the tree all the way to the boat, and I can tell she's getting ready to jump. And I need to be running. So I'm pressed for time. I'll go to boat flipper, and she comes off midair and just like winks at me as she's going back in the lake. So, you know how I'm feeling at this point. You know that your game plan worked the way you wanted it to work, and I'm not been able to capitalize on these bites. So I fix my tube again, and I pitch it right back in the same tree. I get the bite. I set the hook. I get that fish out. I get it in the boat. That's fish number 4. I strap everything down. I run 20 miles back, and when I pull into the check-in boat, it's 3:30 on the button. I got 4 for 7 pounds when I should have had, 5 for, close to 20. So guys are like, well, I guess that shallow bite wasn't very good. And I'm like, no, I just think my fishing skills weren't very good today.
Listen, that's a pro's pro though. Like you just said, some things went wrong. And what I don't think you realize is, like, you go to a club tournament and you come back. Like I did, the first thing you do is tell people, man, I lost some big ones. Man, it didn't work. Oh, you should have seen the fish I lost. I should have won. Dude, you guys on the Elite Series and stuff, like, yeah, there's a couple guys who maybe like always lose one, and then the like rest of you guys all make fun of them. Like, oh, there's so-and-so. I wonder which ones he's lost today. But as a whole, professionals, top-level professionals, you guys just eat that and let everyone think like, yeah, it didn't work out. But like, that is such a hard thing to do, to know you made the right decisions and that just crazy stuff happened.
The day before I catch 50 fish, and I lose one, But when you say you lose it, dude, when you pitch that bait in them trees and the current pushes it around in there and they eat it and they move. And dude, when you set the hook, it's like you just close your eyes and, you know, he's either coming out or he's not, you know, and when you play that shallow game like that, you're going to lose some. And, dude, that day was just, I mean, it's a day I want to forget about. You know, looking back on it now, when I left from up in Bear Creek, should have just started from Bear Creek to as far as I could go, fishing trees all the way up the river. But, you know, at that point I was trying to get 5 in the box, and at that time you try to go with what, you know, you go to where, you know, you're going to get a bite. But yeah, dude, it would have worked flawlessly. I say flawlessly. You know, my game
would have been a good derby.
Would have worked. I'd have got out there in one piece. Absolutely.
So, I mean, you're obviously doing the same thing that you've done for 25 years. I mean, you have your setup right. It's not like you're experimenting with different things, but as a whole, what would you say in that scenario average percentage bite to land ratio would be? You get 100 bites in that scenario with that cover. What percentage of those fish would you say are coming in the boat on an average day?
On an average day, if everything goes right, fishing that type of cover, I'd say if you get I mean, you want to strive for 100%.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I mean,
and
let's use my first day as an example. I lose one fish. You know, one fish that you know is going to matter. You know what I mean? So I fish, you know, 99% flawlessly. I would say, you know, if you can land 85% of those fish fishing in that type of deal, you've had a heck of a day. You know what I mean? And guys are like, well, how hard are they to get out of there? Well, when you pitch it in there, and, you know, I'm using a 1/4 ounce on my tube. So, you know, it's kind of like when I won back there last year, you know, using that 3/8 to let that current float it through there. Now, they weren't set up in this type of cover. They were on more isolated stuff, so it was easier to get them out. But, dude, when they're in that crappie stuff and you set the hook and you hold on, you know, you trust in your equipment and your line, you know, Seaguard, that didn't get broke off none. They just come off. And that's the game that we play.
Didn't you have some crazy fish lands last year when you won?
When you say crazy, what do you mean by that?
Like big ones wallowing, you know, stuff that
but you know,
off. That didn't, and you win the tournament.
Didn't come off, but they weren't quite wrapped up as bad. You know what I mean? There may be one limb in there that they're tangled around versus 10 this time. So, yeah, I mean, look, I've always said this. I'd rather be lucky than good any day. Because you got to have some luck in fishing. I mean, I don't care how good you are. If you don't have a little bit of luck, you're going to be in trouble. You know,
I used to not believe that. It used to take me off when Mark always said, you know, I'd tell Steve, you got lucky and stuff. No. But the longer I do it and the more guys I talk to, I think there definitely, in what you're saying, is an element of luck. And there's an element of luck into it.
Oh, I believe that for sure. You know what I mean? I mean, just look at it, and you know, I can sit here and keep harping on it. I catch 50 the first day, I lose 1. I get 10 bites the second day, and I lose, you know, 5 or 6 of them.
But that was the element of luck. But also, like you said, you could have put yourself in a better position by instead of abandoning the going in 5, realizing the bite on those laydowns on the main river and being able to run 15 more of them in that time. So yeah, you got unlucky that you lost those, but maybe you put yourself in a better, if you get 10 more bites, you get 3 of the 6 or 7 because you see, you can kind of go like around and around in it. And you kind of alluded to that too. So it's like, it's basically giving yourself more opportunities to take the luck factor out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's all I can say about it. You know, it's, I guess it's rewarding to know that you made the right calls and the right decisions. But golly, man, I'd rather not even get a bite than get a bite and losing.
Especially that's what people ask that all the time. You know, would you rather have not? I had a co-angler ask me that on Ross Barnett. Man, do you just wish you'd never gotten that bite? I lost a big one. And I said in the open, and I said, no, dude, I said, I got 3 hours left to fish. And I said, that told me that I can slow down and that there's fish in here. Well, then I lost a 4-pounder with 10 minutes left. And I looked at him and I said, I wish I hadn't gotten that bite.
Right.
Because it's like a last second goal or dropping a pass on the last play. If that happens in the first quarter or you hit the post in the first period, it's a lot different than if it happens 30 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Like, that drop pass changes the entire outcome of the game and the outcome of the day. It's like that fish, you lose those smallmouth fish at 11 o'clock and you're like, bingo, there is. I mean,
exactly. Let's do this. This is what we got to do.
But at the end of the day, it's just like a kick in the pants, man. Because you're like, dude, I'm just leaving meat on the table.
Oh yeah, I mean, I catch those smallmouth at the end of the last 5 minutes. I'm right there at check line. You know what I mean? So it's this is definitely a humbling sport.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's all about confidence. And if you don't have confidence in what you're doing, you might as well stay at the dock. Them fish that I lost, I've caught that fish thousands and thousands of times. You know what I mean? I have got that bite in my career 1,000 times and put that fish in the boat. So, even though I had a little string of bad luck, I still had the confidence, and that's what you got to have. If you don't have confidence, man, you are in a world of hurt.
It's amazing though that there's just a handful of guys that can go out and find their bite all the time. And that's what I think everyone is at every level of fishing is trying to fish something that they're comfortable with, right? I mean, there's time to learn and expand, but when you're fishing for your club or a BFL or something, you want to fish with confidence. You want to fish something that you're comfortable with. And it's amazing. You're probably one of the best in the world at any fishery that you go to as fishing stuff that you're comfortable and confident with, whether it's, pre-spawn bass in a classic on Grand Lake or crappie trees on Pickwick in a predominantly offshore ledge tournament.
Like I said, I feel like if you can fish in I hate to say comfort zone, you know what I mean? Because it's like everybody says, oh, you're just one track minded. That's all you do. But when I feel like you're in your zone and things aren't going right, you know how to make really good decisions. Look, if I'm out there on the ledges, and look, I don't have a problem fishing out there if I can catch them on a big worm or a jig, or a spoon. Dude, my biggest weakness is deep cranking. You know what I mean? When I look at that daggone 10XD, I think, I just should eat my oatmeal with this thing in the morning for breakfast. I tie that thing on. I feel like I'm not even going to hit the water when I throw it out there. And when things go wrong out there, I don't know how to adjust and make those decisions. But dude, when I'm up there shallow and things aren't going right, I've seen that scenario enough to know that, hey, you need to do this, or maybe make this a little adjustment, and I can get the wheels back on the bus. So, with that being said, it's tough out here. You gotta catch them, you gotta cash checks. And, I've kind of paid my career doing that, fishing my game and my style, regardless of where we go in the country. And, I'll be all honest with you. I don't know if it's worth at this point in my career to try to change it.
No, I don't know how long I can keep you. If you have to go, just let me know.
No, I'm
but
good,
there's
man.
something I want to ask you, and you're the guy to ask. Pretty much the rest of them are retired. You are living through the forward-facing offshore sea fish, cast to fish. Have you noticed less fishing pressure on what you like to do? I mean, everyone's doing it now. It's not just a percentage of it.
I'm not going to answer that.
Okay.
I hope everybody still goes out there, keeps going. You know what I mean? I seen a less pressure factor when the electronics got to where they are now. I mean, with Mega 360 and Lake Master mapping, when that stuff came to the market, it was like you started to see less pressure because everybody could slide out there and everybody could find things that they couldn't find in the past. You could fish visual cover that you could see with that 360 that we didn't have those options.
Yeah.
And I saw that initial push of guys leaving the bank. And then we introduced Mega Live and, forward facing sonar. And I start to see less people up there. And I think, how do I say this? I think fish are like any other creature out there, whether that be a waterfowl or a white-tailed deer. They don't take pressure very well. You put pressure on a big white-tailed buck and he's going to blow out, and you put pressure on waterfowl in a timber hole, you're only going to get 1 or 2 days out of it before they move on. And I feel like fish are no different. I mean, think about how many times, we talk about the pressure has affected those fish.
Mm-hmm.
And I just hope that the more and more pressure they put on them out there, they're just going to swim back up there to me.
That's awesome. I have one more question. It's kind of a personal question. So I've been fishing a couple derbies, bush flipping derbies, right? We talked about percentages, and you flip into the middle of a bush in 7 foot of water, and a fish eats it at the base of this thing. You're never going to land 100% of them. When you flip in there, and I know that you'll never be able to know the exact answer to this, but you've done it more than dang near anybody I could talk to. Flip into the middle, boom, reel down, whack, gone. Ah, dang it, fish came out. Now, you don't blow the bush out, you get your bait back, but it was a good one. You know it was a good one. He feels it, and he's gone. What does that fish do? Does he stay in that bush? Does he start swimming around to other bushes? Does he leave? Does he hunker down to it? Where, in your opinion, when you stick one and it comes off on an isolated piece of cover, what does that fish do?
I think that initial shock maybe blows him off. But I always make the point to mark that bush and come back to that tree, because I feel like good fish, especially them kind of fish that are set up on a piece of cover like that, are what I'm going to call homebodies for a little while. So there's a pretty good chance that fish will come back and set up on that piece of cover. So never not come back. Okay. And another tip I'm going to give you is, let's just say, like what you just said, you get hung up in there. Okay. And you go in there and you get your bait. And dude, for me, when I'm fishing, and I'll use this tournament for example, when I had Jake Latondras with me on the first day as my camera guy, and that exact same thing happened. I pitched in there, I got a bite, I set the hook, I lose that fish. Might have been that good one that I lost. And I always, when I'm looking at a piece of cover, I don't ever want to destroy that piece of cover. I don't want to be like a bull in a china shop. I ease in there and I get my bait out. And then if there's current or wind, I'll try to use that to let it blow me back off. And then I literally fix my bait and pitch back into that tree. And I think I caught 10 or 12 fish out of that one piece of cover that I just got hung up in. And I remember Jake making the comment of, dude, you were just in there beating around with your rod. And I was like, yeah, dude, you just got to be quiet and go in there and get your stuff out and back off. And I was able that day to catch, 5 to 10 fish out of every daggone tree it seemed like I fished on. So I think just when that happens, man, just take your time, go in there, get your bait, and definitely visit that piece of cover again, whether that be an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, whatever that may be. There's a pretty good chance that he didn't go far.
Bill, that's great stuff. I know it sucks reliving a derby where things didn't go right, but like I said, I kind of pushed you on that, and the way you described it, I don't think there's anyone amongst us who hasn't been through that scenario.
It's that's fishing, man. You know what I mean? You win some, you lose most, and that's just the way it is. You're going to have, and if you choose this career or your path, or you're a tournament angler, you're going to have a. It's going to take a lot of bad memories to have a lot of good ones. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just the way it is.
Hey,
I go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think the last time I was on here with you, you made fun of my swim jig.
I know. I wasn't going to bring it up. That's what Steve said. Steve, don't make fun of his jig.
I think the comment was, dude, your swim jig's light and fluffy. Ain't that what you said?
I believe I may have referred to your swim jig as a fluffy swim jig.
Yeah, light and fluffy.
Yeah.
So just so you know, I just got prototypes in.
All right. Let's go big screen here.
Ones that's just a little heavier, just for you.
Okay.
All right. So currently it was a quarter, which you said was light and fluffy, and a 3/8. You know, and
hold
after
that thing, you got to hold that thing back up there. Show off what makes this the swim jig.
It don't have no eyes or no pain or nothing.
It doesn't matter, but there's a reason for everything on that swim jig, right?
Yeah. You know, we've talked about this a million times. I love a swim jig that has the chin that's like the belly on your bass boat, you know, which helps that swim jig ride up.
Yeah.
You know, as you can see, it's bullet head, you know, to help come through grass, laydowns, whatever that may be. I'm a big fan of oversized eyes on there. As you can see, that's going to have a really big eye on it. You can see the keepers turned down on the belly. I want to keep that weight toward the bottom of the swim jig. You know, we talked and I brought up my light fluffy one just because I like messing with you because you're easy to mess with. You know, that light one was designed after we talked about it to keep it hovering and in place for a long period of time. I don't like to scoot my swim jig very fast. This new one is going to be a 5/16 size, so that'll probably fit your style a little better.
Yeah. I just pulled up that show. Boy, you have the memory of an elephant, Bill. That was March 31st, 2021. And look, people stood up for you. Scott Strong said, Matt, really? Kind of angry. Don't think Bill needs your crap. Not cool. Right? Thumbs down.
Right. So there, man. We'll just call that the Pangrak Series swim jig, you know?
Bill is a killer. Don't doubt him, Matt. You're still wet behind the ears. There are people that were legitimately upset that I took a shot at your swim jig back then.
Hey,
I do remember that.
I
think I might have actually called and apologized afterwards.
You did. But the beauty of that is after we talked about why that was designed the way it was designed, you're like, oh, dude, that makes total sense now.
No, I know. And listen, Tom Monsour's swim jig isn't exactly a thing of beauty.
Right, exactly.
But it's effective, and both of you guys have won hundreds of thousands of dollars on it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm looking for taking this new one to lacrosse and possibly catching some up there.
So when will is that out on the market yet?
So this just showed up yesterday at the house. I'm sure it was here when I was gone all week. So, you know, they always send stuff to me so I can say yay or nay, and it looks pretty right to me. So we're going to take it to the water and just make sure that, you know, it ain't rolling or doing anything silly. And I'd say it'll be ready very, very soon.
Will that be like an iCast release?
No. You know, it'll be just.
It'll just come out.
It'll just come out. Yes, sir.
All right. Awesome.
So there you go. No more light and fluffy for you.
Hey, if it works, it works. Last question then. You do mention the Mississippi River wheelhouse. Oahe and the St. Lawrence River. Like, not new fisheries for you. Been to Oahe once before, St. Lawrence River pretty much every single year. The position that you're in, that you've put yourself in because of business decisions, 41st place, I mean, you're right there for the Bassmaster Classic. What are your thoughts on those? Especially Oahe. Like, how do you attack a fishery like Oahe? Are you going to have to fish outside your comfort zone, or do you believe every fishery in the country has an option for you to do what you're comfortable with?
You know, here's what doesn't make any sense to me. Like, when we go to a smallmouth event, dude, I don't have any trouble going out there fishing in 20 foot of water, 25 foot of water, which doesn't make any sense to me. You know, and this kind of goes back to where I'm comfortable when I'm on the ledges, you know, fishing a big worm or a jig or a spoon, what I'm going to call bottom contacting baits, you know what I mean? Baits that I can feel what they're doing. And to me, those smallmouth fisheries are no different. You know what I mean? I'm using a drop shot or a Ned rig or, you know, swim bait stuff. I'm fishing in my comfort zone, but when I go to them type of events, dude, I don't have any trouble fishing, you know, 10 to 15 foot. Yeah, naturally, I'd like to catch them up there shallow, throwing around hair or something like that. But, you know, I think, you know, for the St. Lawrence, you know, I shouldn't even say this. I typically, you know, have decent events up there. Oahe is going to be different, a little different, you know what I mean? But it's still going to be that smallmouth, offshore, deep points, humps, you know, things like that. We're just going to go fishing and fish the way we like to fish, and we're either going to make the classic or we're not.
Profound statements from one Bill Lowen.
Right.
Dude, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you for being patient during the ledge talk, and then thanks for diving into that. I don't want to say at your expense, but I thought that was a very educational segment that a lot of people can learn from.
Oh, absolutely. I think the guys just think it's so easy and you're just going to go out there and catch them every single time. And that's just not the case sometimes, and I think the biggest thing that guys can take away from this is when you having a bad event like I did here, I mean, it is what it is, you know what I mean? But the thing that you can take away from this is it's over. Forget about it. There ain't nothing you can do to change it now. And I see so many guys carry that bad event over with them. And look, when you start having bad events and you start trying to fight it, it just gets worse and worse and worse. So the best thing you can do is forget about it. It's over. I mean, you can be mad if you want, but it ain't going to change nothing. You're still going to finish where you finished. So you might as well forget about it and move on and figure out how to catch them at the next one.
One more crazy stat, and I know it's kind of a skewed stat because at one point there was a year. Oh, look, the bots have returned. At one point there was a year that everybody got paid, for showing up 2,500. But you went. This is absolutely insane. You went from the St. Lawrence River in 2018 through the Elite Series this year on Harris Chain, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22, where every time you launch your boat, you picked up a check for at least $2,500.
Right.
That's like almost 5 years. and now some of it, like there was that 1 year of like participation checks, for lack of a better term.
I hate it when y'all say participation checks, because them things would look pretty daggone good right now.
I know, but you basically paid $5,000 and then they gave you $2,500 back for that year. Right? I don't know why they did that. I think it had to do like a deal where they could like hold your money and get money on the interest and then give it back to you. I've never understood.
I'll just be honest with you. I wish it was still like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because then you get the $2,500 back every tournament. But you know what I'm just saying. I'm just saying, either here or there. That's a lot of tournaments in a row of always getting money.
Hey, kids need new shoes.
That's like 1, 2, 3. That's like 50 tournaments in a row. Yeah, 2018 all the way through 2022. And you've got like wins, and there's a 6th, an 11th, a 7th. That's impressive, man.
Well, I've always made my career on trying to be very consistent.
I admire it. I'm trying to do the same thing in the opens to make business decisions.
Yes, it's so hard. Like I said, naturally you want to win every event, but there comes a time when you got to get paid.
Makes it harder to win the way that you've kind of built your career. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And last year I had my worst career finish ever, points wise. But I won an event last year, what that did for me, I never had that option to, let's say, fish free and go for the win. And after I won that event, and you taste that, man, it's like, dude, all you want to do is get another one of them blue trophies. You know what I mean? So I found myself, and I'm still even finding myself doing it this year, is going for that bigger bite. You know what I mean? Picking up a flipping stick in a my signature series flipping jig and trying to get those big bites. Where in the past, dude, I would have done anything to catch one. Shaky head, freaking rooster tail, whatever the heck it was to get a bite. I catch myself now trying to, I guess what you say, trying to win, trying to get those big bites and trying to make it happen again. And sometimes at the end of the event, I'm like, dude, what in the heck did you just do? Why don't you just run over there and catch you a limited squeakers or whatever? But yeah, so was that win a curse? I don't know. That thing sure looks good sitting in the living room, but man, oh man, I feel like ever since I got it, I haven't been very, very consistent. If you got them stats pulled up right now for this year, I've been all over the daggone board. You know what I mean? I think I did an 11th, 80th, 10th, 80th,
13th, 54th, 87th, 26th, 8th, and 76th. But like I said, with the 8th and the 13th, 10, 20, 30, 7. You still have $40,000 in earnings this year. So you've covered your entry fees, and you're right there in the classic cut.
Right. So what you tell me is I need to step it up a little bit, right?
No, I'm just saying, like, even though going all over the board, it's a vicious cycle, right? Like, I talk about this with Hallman in the Opens because we're always around each other, but he'll have like 120th and 13th and 150th and 18th, and I'll just have like 45th to 68th, like, consistently. And he's like, dude, he's like, you have to trade, you have to be willing to risk something to be able to freak show bag to have the win. And he's like, dude, I've won a couple of the tour events in a Toyota, and he's like, that's all I want to do. I want to win. I want to freak show bag it.
Right. And
he's like, you're risking something when you freak show bag it. And some guys are just built to be able to handle that mentally, going, yeah, I might come in with 3 for 6 today, but the next day I might come in with a limit for 26.
Right. Exactly. I don't. Ugh.
It just, to me, I would rather be like have an 80% chance of coming in with a 13 to 14 pound bag than have a 10% chance of coming in with a 25 pound bag.
Right.
It's just like a numbers wise to that, because you can't, like, for an Elite Series guy, you can't win the classic unless you're in the classic. So as long as, like, in fishing, like you said, we've talked about an element of luck. We've talked about consistent. We've talked about how many uncontrollable variables there are in it. The longer you can prolong being in the mix, whether it's qualifying for the Elite Series, whether it's making the Angler of the Year, whether it's qualifying for the Classic, the longer you can be a player in the mix, the more attrition there is. So there's more guys that are out of it, and the longer you can make decisions to stay in the mix, the longer you can put yourself in the dance. Then you can go to the Classic or whatever it is, and it's a winner take all. But what you've done is you've put yourself in that 50 guy field by making decisions all throughout the year. And now you're 3 days away from everyone going, dude, you know what? All those business decisions that he made got him to this point, which was brilliant.
Yep, you're right. And I've like I said, man, I made my career being consistent and cashing them checks and qualifying for classics. And ain't no sense in changing it now. You know what I mean? We're too far in, and let's go for it.
Dude, I appreciate you coming on BTL. It was awesome. We basically did 3 full shows today. Learned a tremendous amount. And like I said, if you guys are listening to this and you like the style of talking to 5 or 6 different guys from each event instead of just the winner, I mean, if we want, we can go back to the, Brandon Lester on next week. Obviously, he's long overdue on BTL. Talk about both his Open win and his Elite Series win after, it was you, probably one of the most accomplished anglers who hadn't won, and then boom, you win. Now you're off the list. Lester was up there. Now he's off that list too. But, we can go do the nitty gritty. But man, as a angler myself and I love talking to the guys and getting a feel of how everyone approaches the same event differently. You guys are best in the world, Bill, and you all look at the same fishery and you go, let's take 180 approaches on it. And that's cool.
It's I appreciate you having me, and it's just there's always a story. And I've always said that the tournament always revolves around that guy that wins, which is what obviously should happen, but there's always a backstory of, why didn't this guy do very good? And for you to be able to bring us on here and figure out what happened. Because look, man, we're just like everybody else. Some days we have bad days and some days we have good days. It's how you overcome it and rebound from it that is what makes it all special.
One more time, show the jig. When can people expect a little heavier jig coming out again, and then we'll get out of here?
I'd say as soon as I make the phone call and tell them it's all good. It's not like we're showing some secret here because we already have this jig. We're just adding a new size to it. Yep. So I'd say as soon as I make the phone call, it won't be very long.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, buddy. You have a good day.
See ya. That was Bill Lowen, and man, I did not expect to go there. That was awesome. I learned a tremendous amount there, but that is the one thing. There's a lot of guys that just eat they eat the lost fish, for lack of a better term. And covering the Elite Series and the FLW Tour and BPT for so many years, especially before the live, there's a lot of famous, quote, lost fish now, and the only reason we know about it is because of the live. But you look down that field, and like you said, you look at a Bill Lowen and go, well, 76th place. Obviously, they weren't up shallow. He should have bailed and gone out deep. But there's so many of those stories of execution and guys where stuff happens that they just don't go up on stage and complain about it. Like I said, I had to kind of pull that out of Bill. He just said, some stuff happened. And I think that's a pro's pro of just kind of realizing it's part of the game and going on to the next one. And in the end, everything, levels out. There's days where you land fish that you have no business landing, and they come in and they're like, dude, like, I've used all my luck up today. Like, I had 4 fish wrapped up. Well, like, look at like what Jimmy Washam did at the championship event there at La Crosse. I mean, dude, the guy had fish hung up for how long? He had fish hung up for 3 minutes on a spinning rod and got it out. Look at Bobby Lane at Redcrest with the fish on the cables, and he gets a 6-pounder in and gets it over the cables. There's like all sort, and you have to navigate. How much is luck? How much is skill? How much is understanding? I don't know if there's a right answer for that, but we definitely need to take our last break of the day, and then when we come back, we'll wrap things up, look ahead for the remainder of the week. It is BTL on a Tuesday. We'll be back after this.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
Vibrating jigs are a great choice for any time of year, and the Kamikaze Swim-On is a perfect match for any vibrating jig. 2 sizes and the unique tail design gives it a bait fish profile and a great swimming action for realism. There are 17 colors. See them all at bigbitebaits.com. The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years and is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte Sexy Shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
Combining one of the most popular hook styles with Gamakatsu's beefier Superline offering, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend delivers the strength necessary to target big fish in heavy cover. Well suited for braided line and heavier fluorocarbon, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend is built using stronger Superline wire that allows anglers to easily fish a finesse worm around heavy cover. The round bend offers a larger bite area, perfect for any worm presentation, while increasing your hookup ratios. The newly enhanced Z-Bend holds your plastics on the hook longer, reducing the number of pull-offs and reducing damage to plastics. Available in 2/0, 3/0, 4/0, and 5/0, this is the most durable worm hook, designed for heavier lines that hold your bait on longer.
Preparation is key to success. And that preparation starts well before you ever hit the water. You're only as strong as your connection to the fish, and your line is that critical connection. Confidence in your line every minute, every day on the water is a necessity, and failure, it's not an option. Sunline makes the fluorocarbon, nylon, and braided lines to give you the strength to guarantee your confidence.
Wrapping things up here, BTL on a Tuesday. Full lineup of guests today. Charlie Hartley kicking things off, showing some old school baits from his second home there in Ohio, where he runs Signcom, and then second place finisher at Pickwick, Cody Huff, top 10 finisher Justin Atkins, and then Bill Lowen. Really went into depth, kind of the anatomy of fishing, your strengths and what can go right and what can go wrong in a tournament. I know I mentioned we were going to have Carl on. We're going to save him for another show. Already an hour and 45 minutes into this one, he said, "Dude, storms are rolling in. I got some sponsorship people at the house." He said I could try to connect, and I said, "Nah, we'll just get you on later." Great lineup of guests tomorrow. West Coast veteran and a guy who's really figured out how to stack up the W's recently, and a good friend of mine for probably the last 10, 12 years. I think we've talked about it on the show before. Met him through the ill-fated World Series of Bass, the Dream competition, back in 2012, 2013, and have kind of been friends ever since. That is Ken Ma. Will be jumping on BTL to talk about what is going on out on the West Coast. Yes, I know I said I'm still working on putting together a full West Coast, and then I also made it. I definitely want to get Justin back on for a full show. A lot of stuff going on with that, and I thought he did a really good job of kind of explaining how he kind of attacked his home body of water. So, and then Thursday, as always, Frank Scalish will be live, and then that's another week of BTL. So thanks for sticking around today for a full hour and 45 minutes of BTL. We will be back tomorrow, Wednesday, with California's Ken Ma. That's all we got for today. See ya.